Morning. So, today I decided to do something a little bit different. Today I'm going to show you guys some of my cases, some of the stuff that I've made, traded, acquired over the years. These are not artifacts. I am not going to display those currently. But these are the points that, like I said, I've chipped out over the years, I've traded with friends. So, we're going to go over each case individually. But here's our brown theme, our purple and blue theme. This is mostly just my extra materials. I've got some classic Dothan Coastal here, and my coral, with a few others. Let's check out some. I think we'll go over, we'll get started with our smallest case. Of course, we've got our Tallahassee Coker Spear. This was one of my first videos that I made on the channel. And just a really nice piece overall. I've dabbled into quartz as well. Here's a little piece of cobble quartz from a garden. This is probably one of my smaller points as well. It's a little thick, but very difficult to get quartz thinned down. Either way though, that little sucker will absolutely tear you up. It's got a good sharp edge on it. This one I traded at a show in Ocala a couple years ago. And this one's made out of quartz crystal from Arkansas, I believe. Now these 2 points are made out of Brooksville chert from Florida. It's like a rocket style Noonan I did. And I actually collected this piece personally. This was behind a dumpster in Pasco County. And grabbed it, heat treated it. Turned out to be some pretty good chert. Now this came from Hernando County, Brooksville and all that. But I made me a little Minnesota style, or something similar. Made that one 5 years ago. Now, the next 2 pieces are fairly rare. There's an extremely small area in southeast or southwest Alabama where this forms. This is black Tallahassee quartzite. Not very many have ever had the privilege of seeing it, let alone working it. And a good buddy of mine, Mr. Bobby Davis of southwest Alabama, well, south central, he provided me the stone. And with the smaller piece, I ended up making this beautiful, fully fluted Clovis point. And it is quite nice. Flute on the other side, flute on the good side. And then, once we got done with that one, I got me the bigger piece, which this piece was very difficult to nap. This material in particular is very dense, but it doesn't chip quite as good as standard Tallahassee, in my opinion. Either way though, definitely a challenge, but I made me a nice fat Abbey style point off of it. This is a piece of Bay Bottom chert from the Tampa, Florida region. 90% of this quarry is actually underwater right now, so you cannot access it. In many of the cultures around there, from the mid-archaic up to the Paleo times, many artifacts were found made out of this. Fewer artifacts were found made of this stuff that was younger, just because, like I said, sea levels supposedly rose and covered up the majority of that quarry around Tampa Bay. But every now and then, a couple pieces get dredged out, thrown under a bridge or something for landscaping. And I managed to get my hands on some many, many years ago. 6 years ago to be exact. And this is a little Simpson I made out of it. I wish I had more of this. This material is super, super dense. And if you find a piece that's, you know, solid enough, they nap pretty well. This is raw material, mind you. Did not heat treat this. This one is heat treated, and I made a little Dalton out of this one. Beautiful. Look at that beautiful bay bottom church speckling. That full bevel. Very sharp. Yeah. This one was a bit of a rougher piece. Had some yellow in it as well, yellow and blue. And I just decided to go classic and make a little Hillsboro point out of it. This was one of my first attempts at a levy point, and this was also my first time working this material. This piece is heat treated. It was a lot rougher beforehand. But yeah, I made this pretty little bay bottom chert levy out of this. It's one of my older makes, but even still so, not too bad. Now the other side had some crystal inclusions. This side's definitely the show side. Here's a bowline made out of that material. It's probably my biggest piece of bay bottom chert. Very thin, fully beveled. Yeah, I really wish I had more of this material. I've got some other bigger pieces. I got a big Noonan made out of it, but that would be next door at the in-laws' house. I gave it to my mother-in-law as a gift. This is kind of a take on a Southern Hardin. I didn't master the rocker bass quite well, but you know, I was still learning. This one I made 6 years ago in 2020. This is heat treated. Half blue, half brown. This is a heat treated piece of that bay bottom chert I made in 2020 as well. Almost with some lighter blue striping in there and some orangish yellow inclusion. A classic little big sandy style. This one was sold to me as bay bottom chert, but I'm pretty sure this is just raw Flint Ridge. Either way, back when I was still fresh in the game, didn't know, I turned it into a Noonan style point. It's almost got like green, like a mint green and orange with all the speckling. And finally, one of the toughest pieces of it I had worked. This was actually I think this was the first piece of it that I tried out, so it's a little rough. But I keep it because I like the pretty color. This was my first attempt at a Hardy style point. Not the best quality of napping, but honestly I might just retouch it one day. Give it some fresh life. But that's the gist of the small case of odd materials. I guess we'll move on to our brown case now. Most of these are ones that I've made. Some of these are ones I've traded or was gifted, mostly by our good friend Jake Anderson. Shout out to you, buddy. Got one of them made by Mr. Bobby Davis himself, and the rest were done by me. This little guy may look familiar. We just made him the other day on a video. Real rust-colored Abbey Point. This little guy was just more of a Kirk stem that I threw together. Not my best piece, but I was bored. I had a nice little quality small spall, but I was like, you know what, I can do something with that. And this is raw material, not heat treated. Delphin Coastal Chert. The back's riddled with Cortex steel. And actually quite sharp. This is a piece of coastal jasper that I actually picked up in Ashford, Alabama. They were doing construction in the town a couple years ago. They had just cleared out a new hill by the highway. And I was off work at the time. And I was like, you know what? I see some chert nodules on that hillside. So I went and walked it real quick on my lunch break. Found a couple nice little nodules of this really chocolate peanut butter type color material. This is heat treated. And it's one of my thinnest points I've ever made for the size and width. And I made this one 5 years ago. But yeah, this was a really unique piece. Alabama Coastal Jasper. Fun fact, I also walked that hill the same day and found me a nice little authentic Elora point. So the natives were on that site as well. Now this one I made about 5 years ago as well. This is from a tab of local chert in Delphin. I picked this out of a creek in its natural form, just a tab of limestone. Took it home, heat treated it, and worked it throughout the day as I was working at my last job many years ago, and came out with this absolute beauty. Very, very translucent. The light is coming this way on me, and you can already see it just catches the light. Just an absolutely beautiful piece of really high quality chert. Picked it out of the seam where it was forming, and just makes it that much more special in my opinion. This piece is Chattahoochee chert. Just like Flint River, there's certain parts on the Chattahoochee that pop out nodules of Coastal Plains chert. Maybe not in quite as good a variety, but not bad nonetheless. This is a raw piece, and I got one good flute on one side. The other side, not so much. A couple thinning strikes, but nothing crazy. But that's okay. This is actually the big bowline that you see in my in the channel picture, made out of Flint River chert by yours truly. Nothing crazy to say on this one, just a really, really easy napping session. Beautiful material. This is one I made as well earlier in the year out of some Flint River chert. This is more like a Simpson, Clovis, I'm sorry. Got a good flute here, but it just smaller, stalled out. But this is raw material. Interesting to note that there's a limestone hole that goes all the way through, and I was still able to nap through it. Just goes to show how decent Flint River material is. This is my first piece of Georgia jasper that I ever worked, and consequently heat treated it, cooked it a little too much. I made this in 2019, and I was still kind of green back then with the napping, so it's not my best piece quality wise, but it was the first big piece I was ever able to make fairly thin. And I made it into a Seminole style point, which is a variant of the Savannah River point. Now this big pretty thing is actually one that our buddy Jake Anderson made for me, and I just had to get it from him. I was the first one of us to find black coastal plain shirt in Dothan, and this is probably the rarest variety that we have for our local area. But anyways, he made this giant monstrosity, and very agony grade of shirt, very translucent, and I'm very, very happy to have this. Now this particular piece is a piece that he found. Him and I were quarrying together, and we had found a piece like this about 2 years prior and had never seen another piece of it since then. So when he rolled this out, we both freaked out. But yeah, that's my giant black coastal clay. Giant Hillsboro swirl pattern, made by Mr. Jake Anderson as well. Happy to have this beauty in my collection. Was made in 2023. And this monster Pickwick was actually one that he made on my front porch. We were testing out new boppers, new material, and we were just playing around, and he knocked out this gigantic Pickwick point. This would have been actually kind of close to what a first stage Pickwick would look like. She's solid. Now Mr. Bobby Davis made me this extremely beveled point, micro serrations. A couple years ago at an artifact show, we were napping, and I've kept it in my keeper case ever since. I just love the edge work on it, especially. Pretty piece. This is something I made a long time ago. I made this in 2020, right after I discovered heat treating. So this is one of my first heat treated pieces, probably my first heat treated piece of good size. And this material was very uniquely colored, had a lot of lavender, orangish brown, pink, peach, purple, white in it. Very fossily though, had a lot of inclusions. So this is some of my oldest work. We got a big old clamshell here, and there's seams and whatnot all throughout it. But we may do. I keep it more as a reminder of how much progress we've made. Most of my older points are gone, but some of them I keep just to remind me of my roots, I guess. Alright. So this piece is actually the first piece of black chert that I had ever found. And this was heat treated. For example, as a comparison, this is that particular chert raw, and this is what it looks like heat treated. Get pink and red all going through it. Everything just turns. And this is one of my older heat treated makes. This was a big old Savannah River levee type point. And not too bad. I could have done better on it. It's got a good convexity. But had I got the same piece nowadays, it would have been much thinner. This piece I made in 2024 out of some raw chert. Probably like an A- grade material. And then in the center it was probably like a C grade material, real limestoney. But either way, I was able to get this killer beveled Lost Lake out of it. Pretty good translucence on that piece too. This is a Seminole point that Jake made many years ago. He made this in 2021. And it's, I mean, you could tell he just still had fine work even back then. And it's a pretty piece. Got a little purple heart in it. A little purple swirl in the base. Very nice. This is my levy point I made on one of my very first videos on YouTube. Super nice, super thin. If you haven't seen the video on that, go check it out. It was just a scrap piece I had laying around. It says heat treated, but it definitely could have taken a couple hundred more degrees. Still a little crusty in this state, but much better to work. So nice, interesting color pattern. There was a chalk seam here in the middle, but held together with the notch. Not too bad for an older point. This is my only surviving piece of Briar Creek chert. And I want to say this is Savannah River agate. And I made me a Yadkin out of it. Always loved the teeth on this one. It's still very sharp, even though this is an older make. It's got crystal pockets in it. Not bad though. This piece right here came from the same creek that this material came from. This is lightly heat treated. This one got a little more heat treatment and it turned almost yellow. Extremely translucent. And there's sand dollar fossils all up and down it. You can see that on the base especially. Very thin, so beveled. Just overall one of my favorite points I've ever made. Never wanted to get rid of it. This is a pretty little pink levy. Pink and brown levy. Nothing too crazy about it. Just a good little make. Haven't sold it out yet. Got two more I want to show off out of this case, then I'm done here. So this one I've had for a long time. This was some really good high-grade material I found and heat treated. And the tip stayed like a tannish color, and then it transitions into like pink and lavender colors in the base. And it's since patinated in the air over the years, but you still see the good color in it. This is a South Prong Creek style point. Even for 2020, I'll still get them pretty thin. And then we have a heat-treated hardened point. Well, an attempt at a harden. It's hard to get the notches that skinny. But this is made out of some high-quality material. That's my only qualm about it is that it had too many inclusions. But overall, it didn't work out too bad. Good bevel on it. So that'll be it for the brown case. Let's go ahead and work on the next one. So this one is our generic Dauphin Coastal chert case. Generic meaning just your kind of basic colors in it. These are, it's good quality flint, there's nothing wrong with them, just not exactly the most vibrant out there. Get a lot of different varieties of Dauphin material. Start off with a couple of my favorites. First off, this is a variety we call Strawberry Fleck. Starts off as blue with these little brown dots. And different grades can take different amounts of heat. So this one got cooked to high heaven and it turned white with pink highlights and the dots turned dark red, almost black. If it was a higher grade, it would be almost a translucent white and pink, and the dots would be bright red, which is why we call it strawberry fleck. Riddled with inclusions and fossils, of course. And I say Jake did a pretty good piece on, or did pretty good work on this piece. Pretty good job. I do believe that's the only piece in this case that is not mine. Of creation, anyway. So this piece right here, this is a rough, chalky piece of coastal chert that just so happened to stay together. It could have taken some more heat, but it got about 450, just enough for it to become workable. I struggled with this piece, and though it's high quality, well made, it's still relatively thick. But, you know, it held together, and it did make a nice little point. This next one is made out of some raw material. This one would be kind of like a earlier stage Big Sandy, or early stage Bolin, I think. Where I notched it, there's an entire fossil right here. Cross section of a sand dollar or something, and it held together. Definitely a rough material, especially when we got up to here. This is the only little hiccup I had on it, but overall still came out pretty good. Lots of fossil patterns in the base. We got big old rice grain. Not bad. Next to it, similar piece, similar material, corner notch instead, and this is heat treated. Beveled. Now this one is kind of like a sunfish style corner notch point. Let me fix the camera. There we go. This one's more like a corner notch, or sunfish corner notch. So this is high grade Dothan coastal chert, that grayish blue material. I recently made a Clovis out of some of that bluish gray material. And this is that material, but heat treated. Not overcooked. I think I got it just right on this one, because the material got a lot slicker, but it didn't become more brittle, if it makes sense. I didn't get any color pop on it. If anything, I actually lost some of the blue color on it, but it made it a dream come true to chip on. So, and this one I made in 2022. So this one's got a little bit of age on it as well. We're not beveled yet. We had this nice little agate seam right here. And this would kind of represent what I would interpret like a first stage Kirk corner notch beam, or a first stage Lost Lake or something. One of my favorites of all time, really. This was the first time I really played with big punch notching. And I want to say for the first time, the notches came out spectacular. Speaking of notching, I made this one last year. This is heat treated material, but it was very, very rough, very chalky, even after heat treatment. But even with that said, I was able to get something pretty fine made out of it. This is a Lafayette style point. They're related to the clay family. Not a deep south point style you hear about too much, but they are out there. Pretty thin for how rough it is. But overall, fun point to make. Good notching on it. So this point, nothing super duper crazy about it, but there's two interesting things on it. First off, it's got a crystal inclusion seam that goes in the wing, all the way down, and out the other side. And somehow I was still able to keep it together. But it's got full-on crystals in it. Yeah. And then we'll also have a complete imprint of a seashell fossil on it, which I always just thought was one of the most fascinating things about it. I have a real soft spot for holes and fossils in my stone. I think it just makes it look cooler. How's about that for some Coastal Plains chert? I made me a little nacho way wassisa off of it. Pretty cool though. I love that one. Got an inclusion and a seashell. Speaking of inclusions, this next piece is kind of a little Pickwick that I made. I made this one 2022 off of some heat treated material that was just still complete trash. I'm not even sure this is chert. I think this is just silicified limestone. And this big hole, somehow I was able to keep it together. And it's got a big clam inclusion here, big hole next to it. The rest of it was this rough fossiliferous type material, but it did hold together and chip. And I will say, you know, I put a lot of pressure on this edge work, and it held together. So since then I haven't been able to make another one with such a big hole in it, and I've just kind of held on to it. I really do like this one though. One of my signature pieces for sure. Not the best, not the thinnest, but for what material I had, I say we made out like a bandit on that one. Yeah, just some more heat treated, pretty material on that one. Nothing too crazy, I'm not super attached to this one. This one was kind of odd. I don't usually make them like this, but one day I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna make something kind of woodland-like. And I went with something that's kind of like a super duper long Santa Fe point that you see in the books. That's out of some heat treated Coastal Plains chert. Not a specifically nice variety, but not too bad either. It napped pretty well. Look at the edge work on that. Yeah, it napped pretty well considering. Tough, but it'll absolutely do the number on you. Alright, got 3 Boland bevels here. This one is from a piece of creek chert I got down the road. And dug it out of the creek side. Took it home, spalled it, heat treated it. Got a nice pretty red tip. The rest of it's just this bland beige material. Overall though, can't complain. It worked pretty well. This piece was some white and brown material. Nice little color transition on it. It's like half and half. Whew. Half white tip, half brown base. Good little bevel on it. This is a heat treated piece as well. Just a little piece I couldn't throw away. It was just too nice not to do something with it. And then this one is raw material. I think. No, this is heat treated. This is some of that high grade brown material. What I like about this one is that it's super duper translucent on the base. And the tip's got some translucency as well. But this showcases a layer distinction between the more limestoney chert that hadn't quite turned into that really high grade agate material. So you got half of it's that high grade agate type stuff, and the other is just some high grade chert. And there's this pretty little brown line that separates the layers. Really easy to make. Overall, just a nice, interesting 2-color type piece. Then I've got these 2 Clovises that I've made. One I made the other day. Got it on video. Go check it out. This one I made a while ago. 2023 out of some Also raw chert. Same grade as this, just this one had a little bit of brown color in it. But yeah, for raw chert, I'd say not too bad. Here's a little levy point I have out of some heat treated material. I made this one in 2020. This is one of my older points. I just like it. Haven't let it go. Might be willing to though. This little Noonan point I made is out of some high grade Coastal Plains chert from Delphin that I heat treated. And you know, you look at it initially, it's like, yeah, it's nicely made, but there's nothing really spectacular about it. Until you look into the tip. Check this out. So, I don't know how well the camera is going to be able to pick this up. Focus. I don't know. But anyways, there's an entire sand dollar fossil right here. There's a circle on the tip that you can see. And that's an entire sand dollar fossil silicified into the stone. And I thought that was extremely unique because I've never seen that before. So I kept it. Gotta go with our classic Boggy Branch. I showed this to one of the big time collectors at a show once, and he almost freaking passed out. Then I had to tell him it's not authentic, and he said, oh. But, yeah, man, I do like my Boggy Branch points. I keep selling them every time I go to a show. Everybody buys them, but I'm gonna have to keep making more. This is heat treated white flint from Delphin. Nothing super duper crazy, but a wonderful material, good grade. Yeah, little Boggy Branch. Got a nice big clay point I made out of some rough and tough material, some real grainy chert, but it held together well. I really had to smack the mess out of this one though with percussion. Like all the percussion hits I took were borderline too hard, but it was the only way to get the flakes to drive. So sometimes you look out with an undercooked piece that's still tough, but since it's still tough, you know, you can really get at it and get it. But overall, very, very good piece. One of my best clays I've ever made, in my opinion. This piece is raw material. This is strawberry fleck material in its raw form. I didn't heat treat this because this particular piece had a lot of inclusions in it. I don't want to ruin it. See, there's fossil, 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 fossil. I mean, there's just all kind of inclusions in it. That being said, it held together pretty well. I got puppy dog teeth on it. Sharp as all get out. This Lafayette point is made out of some heat treated chert that almost came out yellow. Very translucent, one of my thinner points from back then. Had a ball working this piece. And from the same spot, I got this particular piece that I made this Noonan out of. It was a little rougher, but similar color, that yellowish brown. Just a decent point overall. Made this big old honking Wasissa type point. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but this is out of some real fossiliferous chert, almost just like a limestone that was silicified. I think I did pretty good with it though. It is heat treated. It may not be the prettiest, but just wonderful material. Did the job. This is another piece of strawberry fleck with some very light fleck in it. Heat treated. And I made me a nice fat pretty Abbey point off of it. Yeah, there's very little speckling in it. It's not the heaviest speckling I've ever seen for strawberry fleck, but there is some in there. Overall, pretty good point. And this big ugly thing is my rendition of a worked down Pickwick point. This is out of some real chalky type material, you know, and it just became what it was. Overall though, that's pretty realistic looking. That's about what you would find out in the field if it wasn't broken. Just not a signature art piece. Alright, that'll do for that. So if you guys have been with me this long, I appreciate you. I believe I'm going to call it here. See you on the next one.